Greetings. I see you've made your way past enemy lines to the dark Outpost. Welcome, Patriots. I'm David Zublik, your host on this excursion to the darkest outposts of the human mind and beyond. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. We have a great show coming up for you today. In the first hour, we have news and information. We're going to get you up to speed on a few things in the news, as well as some things that happened to us over the course of this past weekend, which I think you'll be interested in because it has to do with things we've been talking about on this program. And then in the second hour, we're scheduled to be joined by Jim DeFrancisco, Airman Jim, talking about UFOs, UAPs, paranormal, supernatural, conspiracies, and other things. Jim DeFrancisco will be joining us in the second hour of the program today. And then, a little bit later on, Michelle Stefanik, who was supposed to be with us this past Friday, she will be joining us for the final 2 hours of the program today as she continues to expose our federal government's complicity in the African Embassy bombing in 1988, the first World Trade Center bombing, Benghazi, 9/11, and much, much more. Michelle Stefanik will join us for the final portion of the program today. So that's what we've got coming up. That's part of our agenda. Now, before we do any of that, I'd like to take a moment and do as we do each and every day on this program, and that's to take a quick moment and honor our nation and its flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. We really appreciate that, folks. I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate each and every one of you. And I want to tell you a little bit about Friday and why we were not here in just a couple of moments. But first, we've been talking to a lot of people on this program who have indicated to us that the economy is about to go down the dumper, perhaps as early as this September. Now, I wouldn't be a bit surprised by some of the things that this clown, this usurper to the Oval Office, Joe Biden and or whoever is behind this puppet, they're trying to destroy this country every opportunity they get. Whether or not we do go down the tubes economically in the fall is still up in the air, but we do know that right now inflation is skyrocketing and most Americans are not prepared for this huge economic paradigm shift that is going to occur, whether we want it or not. Now, let me explain this a little bit. Nearly 30% of all U.S. currency in circulation, all right, has been printed within the past 12 months. Massive new tax plans and the redistribution of the wealth set forth by this regime will leave unprepared Americans in a really bad spot. That could be you. Now, the U.S. dollar is plummeting quicker than ever before. Meanwhile, stocks are reaching all-time highs. Well, the changes coming are going to be volatile, and they're also going to be a little bit complicated. That's why I want you to watch a very special free video. It's a step-by-step financial video by Money Map Report. Now, after watching this video, you will know exactly what you need to do to protect your assets during this volatile paradigm shift that's about to change the United States forever. And you will be able to thrive while others might be struggling. By the time you're finished watching this video, you'll have rock-solid stock recommendations, inflation-proof stock picks, and new under-the-radar investments. If you own U.S. currency or assets, this might be the most important video you ever watch. Now, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go to stopinflationnow.com. That's stopinflationnow.com to watch this free step-by-step video. It could save your financial destiny. All right, let's go to the Dark Outpost newsroom for some news and information, of course, that you are not going to get anyplace else. And before we get to the news, I want to talk to you a little bit about this past Friday. We were not here, as you know. Now, we do from time to time, and we'll continue from time to time, take some scheduled time off for vacation. Even I like to rest and recuperate. And what was it, that book that said sharpen the saw? It's a way of building up your momentum and getting things back in order. There was a book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I believe it was, by Stephen Covey. And he talked about the fact that you have to take a break from what you're doing every once in a while in order to sharpen the saw. He compared it to being a lumberjack. You're constantly sawing wood, and eventually you've got to take a few minutes to sharpen that saw, because otherwise you're not going to be able to cut the wood as well as you had in the past. So even I like to take some scheduled time off from time to time, and we will be doing so later this month, and again in August. But what happened last Friday was not, by any stretch of the imagination, scheduled time off. We were attacked. We were scheduled to have a very important guest on this past Friday. She's going to be with us today, Michelle Stefanik. And she has been exposing the United States' complicitness in the African embassy bombing, which took place back in 1988, the first World Trade Center bombing, Benghazi, 9/11, and a lot of other conspiracies that appear to have come from, foreign terrorists. But that's just not the case, at least not completely. Our own government has been involved, and we've already been exposing the fact that a lot of these have been false flags. Now, a false flag is something where real people could die. Real people could perish in a false flag attack on our country. They're considered collateral damage, of course, in essence, to what is going on for the purpose of foisting an agenda on the American people. A lot of these attacks, such as the Sandy Hook massacre and others, were designed to implement gun control. We've got a very special guest that we have on every Wednesday, Dr. James Fetzer, who talks about these conspiracies and false flags. And we've been doing a deep dive into how to spot a false flag every Wednesday on the program with him. And last week, we really got into 9/11 and the Boston bombing. Our government has been involved in a lot of things they should not have their hands in. And it's all designed to control the masses. And when they get exposed, they get angry. And they seek revenge on those who are exposing the truth. And we were the recipient of some of that anger, I believe, last week, Friday, on this broadcast. We had scheduled to have Michelle Stefanik on. She wasn't the only guest. We were going to have John Carmen as well. He joins us every Friday. A lot of you guys love John Carmen, so do we. But we got ready to go on the air on Friday, and all of a sudden we realized there was no way we could get on. We had been, I don't want to say hacked, because it was a physical cutting of the lifeline to get this broadcast on the air. We could not get up and running. So we were unable to do our show on Friday. And for that, I sincerely apologize. We do everything we can to be here every day, Monday through Friday, from noon to 4 p.m. Eastern, sometimes a little bit earlier if we have to accommodate a guest. But it's usually 4 hours every day with news, politics, pop culture, and conspiracy, and news that you're just not going to get anyplace else. We don't try to take time off unless we tell you we're going to be taking time off. And even then, we're going to find a way to make that time up to you, for those of you that are Dark Outpost Inner Circle members and who have paid for a subscription. We'll make it up by doing some weekend shows, and we'll tell you about one that's coming up real soon in just a couple of minutes here. But somebody actually cut not our power. We had power, but we couldn't get on the internet on Friday. Now, it's not just that our internet went down. It wasn't one of those, every once in a while. There's been a lot of volatile weather in the area over the course of this past summer. It's been a very unusual summer, very volatile weather-wise in many parts of the country. But that wasn't it, because we're pretty weatherproof where I am right now. We've planned for just these sort of things. No, is it? Well, let me give you a little story here. The internet for us went down, and starting now, at least by the end of this week, I can't promise you between now and this weekend, but after this weekend, we will have a backup plan. We will not be going down. If something happens to our internet, we'll have a backup way to get on the internet. We've already been in the we planned as soon as this hit this past Friday. We were making phone calls. We were on the air getting technicians and everything to fix this problem and make sure that it doesn't happen again, and to provide us with a backup plan. But here's what happened. The internet was down, couldn't get on the air, and I tried everything in my power, because I'm pretty tech savvy, to resolve the issue, and couldn't do it. And so we contacted our, technician, engineers, and they came out yesterday. We were completely down Friday and Saturday altogether, with the exception of the Wi-Fi, that sort of thing. So we had them come out, and our technician did a little examination. He comes in, he said, your line was cut. I said, well, you mean the line snapped or something and the wind? No. Your line was cut with a pair of cutters. Somebody deliberately cut the line to our studio so that we were unable to broadcast to you. And he actually showed me I didn't save it, but I could have. And I said, well, who would do this? I said, he says, well, do you have any enemies? I said, well, let me pull out my pad of paper. We've pissed a lot of people off over the course of these many years that we've been doing this show. And I expect we're going to piss a lot of people off going forward. This is not going to end by any means, because we're not going to stop doing what we're doing. Anyway, we're back up and running, and we'll talk a little bit with Michelle Stefanik about it when she comes on the broadcast a little bit later on. But the bottom line is we now will, by the end of this week anyway, have a backup plan so that if we go down, we will still be able to get on through an alternative means. We will not be stopped from bringing you a show. And of course, we don't deal with these things in advance. Maybe we should have thought of some of this stuff in advance. We don't. We wait till it hits us and go, oh, how are we going to make sure this never happens again, right? So that is in the process of being resolved. And because of the fact that we did not have a show last week, Friday, we're going to make it up to you with a weekend show, probably as early as this weekend. And what I think we're going to do, and tell me if this sounds interesting to you. You can do that by emailing me. The email address is david@darkoutpost.com. david@darkoutpost.com. I'm thinking of doing a Saturday evening show for you. It would be on about, I think we'd go on about 9 p.m. Eastern time. 9 p.m. Eastern time for maybe 3 hours. Okay. That time may fluctuate. We may change that before the weekend, but I'm thinking this Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern time, 3 hours, and just you and me, your telephone calls. We'll talk about news, politics, pop culture, conspiracies. No guests. No guests unless somebody wants to call in and be a guest. But I'm thinking just you and me. And we'll just shoot the breeze. We'll talk about a number of different things for 3 solid hours. And that'll make up for the fact that we didn't have a show on Friday. Now, if you folks call in, as you really have been, you guys have been great in terms of calling into the broadcast. I can't tell you enough how appreciative I am of the fact that you people participate in the program. This is not about me. It's about getting the news out to you. And when you call in and appreciate what we're trying to do here, I appreciate you very, very much. I don't take any one of you for granted. I love you guys. Whether you're just watching the free show on Rumble Monday through Friday, or watching the first hour of it archived on Rumble and BitChute, or whether you're a Dark Outpost subscriber and you get the whole 4 hours every day, I appreciate each and every one of you, and I always will. When we do this show on the weekend, hopefully this Saturday, 9 p.m. to midnight, with your telephone calls, if we have a good response to it, a lot of people listen, a lot of people call in, then we might just do it on a regular basis. We may just add a 6th day to the week. Maybe not every week. Maybe it'll be like special broadcasts. But I'm thinking we could do it on some sort of a semi-regular basis if you folks respond to it. So shoot me an email, david@darkoutpost.com, and say, yeah, I'll call in. I'd love to participate in that. And if you would, then I think it'll be fun. david@darkoutpost.com. Okay. Enough about that. We'll get into a little bit more with Michelle Stefanik. This whole COVID thing is getting way out of hand. I just found out some good news today. Where I live, we have a professional football team, although many would say we need to get a professional football team, the Detroit Lions. They haven't won a national championship since the year I was born, in 1957. This is pre-Super Bowl. I'm talking an NFL championship game. They have not won since 1957. I keep waiting. I've been fans of this team. I've gone to games, supported the team, and it's just the owners just don't want to win. I got to assume they don't want to win because they don't spend the money for good coaches. They don't spend the money. They hire these puds, and then when we have a good, like a quarterback like Matthew Stafford or something, they get rid of him. They let him go. And he's tired of not winning too. They want some Super Bowl rings. These guys, So anyway, the bottom line is I saw an interesting article today that apparently we're going to be at full capacity in the stadium this fall, and they are not going to require masks, and they are not going to ask if you've been vaccinated. Well, that's a good thing. I noticed Senator Rand Paul has introduced, or is planning on introducing, some sort of a bill to ban masks on aircraft. And I hope to God of course we have a Democrat-controlled Congress right now and Senate, so the chances of that happening probably are slim and none. But this is bullcrap right now. Don't you think, folks? I mean, really, this whole thing has been a psyop. And the rest of the country is beginning to open up right now. We're beginning to get back to some semblance of normalcy after this crap that actually started here in the United States with Anthony Fauci, our own government, complicit with the Chinese. And, this whole thing was a depopulation plan. We've gone over it and over and over it. We've talked about it on this broadcast incessantly and probably will continue as long as it's in the news. But again, I'm going to be doing some traveling this summer, and I'm not planning on wearing a mask on an aircraft. So something better be done, because I'm going to be out of the country, and it's going to be interesting to see how I manage to pull that off. And of course, I'll keep you posted on that. But anyway, disturbing story in the news today. This comes from Natural News, written by Mike Adams. Government document instructs vaccine strike force teams how to clear buildings, violate trespass laws, and flag anti-vaxxers for forced quarantines. Now, we told you this was coming. We told you over and over again that there will be forced vaccinations, that there would be forced quarantines. And the fact that we appeared to have survived COVID without getting to that point made some of you feel pretty comfortable. It's over. I can take the masks off, whether you got vaccinated or not, because really, most businesses are not going to cut their noses off to spite their faces. There are a few. Believe me, there are some businesses that are going to require, and I guess it also depends where you live. Where I live, since our dictator of a governor, Stretchen Gretchen Whitmer, remind me to tell you sometime why she got that name. I didn't give it to her. Finally, opened everything up. I don't see any businesses saying you have to show proof of vaccination to do business with us, to come into our store, to come into our place of business. You don't have to do that. So they're not requiring, vaccine, quote unquote, passports yet where I live. They're doing it on the honor system. And hopefully there's a lot of people who've been smart enough not to go ahead and get the vaccine. But I know some of you, most of you are telling me the truth when you call into this broadcast and say, as I did, I'm not getting the vaccine, but my family members did. And I tried to talk them out of it. They wouldn't listen. They got the vaccine anyway, right? Well, but I'm sure there are some of you who secretly got yourself talked into taking that vaccine. Maybe you regret it. Maybe you don't. I don't know. But whether you've been vaccinated or not, you don't look any, you don't mean anything less in my eyes, okay? Because the amount of pressure that's been applied to people to get the vaccine has been tremendous. So whether you're regretting it, whether you're not, whether you've gotten the vaccine, whether you're not, I'm glad to have you in the audience. Bottom line is, in our state, and probably now in most states here in the United States, businesses are operating on the honor system. You got the vaccine or not, you can come into the business. You want to wear a mask or not, whatever. Still seeing a lot of people wearing masks at certain businesses like Costco. I go to Costco. I like to shop at Costco. I'm sorry, maybe somebody disagree. I've got stock in Costco. All right, so a lot of people still wearing masks in Costco. But some of these other stores, you hardly see anybody wearing a mask in there. I don't know how it is where you are, but I'm thinking most businesses are not going to require these vaccine passports. So, we seem to be doing pretty well, but that's pissing off this current regime, the powers that be behind this puppet and doppelganger and lookalike clone Biden. And so now they're actually sending people door to door in various communities around the country, asking people if they've gotten vaccinated. They're actually going out and asking people, have you got your vaccine? In fact, in California, and I've been trying to find a picture of this and I can't seem to find it. Maybe one of you will have a photograph of this. And if any of you live in California and you've seen this firsthand and you can get a picture of it or send me a photograph of it, I would really love to put this on the website and show it to you on the program here, because I can't find it. But apparently they have these people going around in pairs. One of them is dressed as the COVID vaccine, with the little spikes, like a little ball with the spikes sticking out. And the other one's dressed as a syringe. And they're going door to door to remind people to get their vaccine or ask them if they had a vaccine, which, by the way, is nobody's damn business. And I don't care that some court has ruled, or the CDC or the AMA or whatever has said, oh, that's not a violation of the HIPAA laws. Yes, it is. It's not nobody's damn business what medical thing you have had done to you or have not had done to you. You're not required to tell anybody anything. Okay? And I don't think employers, for now they're saying employers do have the right to require their employees to get a vaccine in order to keep their job. I'm in the process of trying to get a hold of it. She just got back with me this morning and said she'd be amenable to coming on the program. So I'm hoping that I can get her. A woman who is a meteorologist, a television meteorologist, a weather forecaster here at a local television station here in Detroit, who lost her job for going on the air. And first of all, she was required by her employer to get a vaccine, and she refused. And then she went on the air and exposed them, as some of these other news reporters and anchors have been doing. And she, of course, was immediately terminated for that. But I want to get her on the program to talk to her about that. And I think you'd enjoy that. But I really think that people will have a case if they try, if your somebody's going to test it. Somebody's going to get an attorney and say, wait a minute, your employer cannot force you to undergo a medical procedure of any kind in order to keep your job. Somebody's going to test that. Now, depending upon the makeup of the Supreme Court and what they feel like, what kind of cases they feel like taking up or not, it may not go anywhere. But if enough people say, I'm not doing it, I'm not, and they lose their job and file a lawsuit, you could keep your employer tied up in court for years and have them spend tons of money defending this. So I'm hoping that this is what this weathercaster ends up doing. I'll talk with her about that if I can get her on the program in the next day or so. But the idea is, don't allow an employer to force you to get vaccinated. And don't quit. Make them fire you. Make them fire you. Because you're certainly not going to have a case if you resign. Well, you quit of your own accord. Okay? Let them fire you. And then see if you have a case. If you don't, so what? All right? And then make sure that whatever other job you take or go to, they do not require this. It's just, it's ridiculous. It's none of their damn business as far as I'm concerned. I don't care what the current law says. Somebody's going to test it. And I think eventually this is going to be, you cannot force it. All right? Nonetheless, these people are going door to door all over the country. This is these vaccine squads asking people if they've been vaccinated. If they come to your house, what are you going to tell them? What are you going to say? I'm going to be answering my front door with a 9mm in a holster. Not going to pull it. Not going to pull the gun out. Not going to do anything like that. But I just wanted to know this is a place that is ready to fight if you try to push anything on me. And I'm not going to answer any of their damn questions. It's none of their damn business. Okay? And tell them to get off your property and move on. And if enough people do that, that'll be shoved in their face. But anyway, according to Mike Adams here at Natural News, here's the story basically. A government document that has recently surfaced offers horrifying details on how door-to-door strike force vaccine enforcement teams plan to operate. Labeled Community Health Ambassador Outreach Door-Knocking Project. A now public document published by the government of Lake County, Illinois, instructs ambassadors, in quotes, ambassadors, to, listen to this, violate no soliciting restrictions and illegally trespass onto private property. So you can have a no trespassing, no soliciting sign on your property, and this regime is telling them to violate that. Ignore it, okay? Impersonate health department officials and attempt to intimidate building managers into consenting to allow entry for the strike force teams. Impersonate health, in other words, lie. We're going to pretend we are health department officials and we have the right to be on your property and you have to let us in. So if you have a gated community, for example, or something along that line, well, too bad. We're going to be able to come on your property and do what we want. How you like that? Lie to the public and falsely claim COVID vaccines are safe by withholding information about serious vaccine side effects, including hospitalizations and deaths. Now, we've reported extensively on this program, and I'm sure you've heard and seen it on other programs. We're not the only ones talking about the vaccine deaths, but we've talked about it. We've had a lot of deaths. We've had a lot of injuries. And of course, it was during this regime of Anthony Fauci, going back as far as the late 1980s when HIPAA was passed and eventually the big pharmaceutical companies were told that they will no longer be liable for vaccine injuries and deaths. Now, the government has a payout program. They pay people who suffer adverse side effects from vaccines. But the drug manufacturers who create these poisons are not held accountable. They are not held to account. Okay? So these people are going to get away with lying, saying that they're from the government, we're here to help, and that they want to get on your property. Clear buildings in military fashion, going floor by floor, wing by wing, knocking on doors, and intimidating residents of apartment buildings and residential units. Recording the location's address, the room number of anti-vaxxers in order to feed this information into a government database for further action, most likely forced quarantine removal, aka medical kidnapping. So, in other words, they can go door to door, they can clear your building, they can kick your ass out of the house, just like they did, remember during the Boston bombing? When they were looking for the so-called guilty party, the Tsarnaev brothers, and they went door to door and kicked people out of their homes and went into their homes and looked for them. No warrants. They just went ahead and did it, right? Well, now they want to be able to do this now. Just kick your ass out of the home. And if you're an anti-vaxxer, if you express, by the way, if somebody asks you if you've been vaccinated in your house, you can either say it's none of your damn business, or you can lie if you haven't been vaccinated and say, yeah, we're all set here. I guess it's up to you how you want to handle the situation. I'm going to tell the truth. Hell no, I haven't been vaccinated. And yeah, some of my other family members have, but I have not, and I refuse to. And it's none of your, or I could say it's none of your damn business, but I don't mind telling people. Hell no, I'm not doing it. Okay? And recording the locations and feed this information into a government database. They got those government databases. They have one on everybody. And then they're going to have forced quarantines and removal for those who have not been vaccinated. Now, White House spokesperson Jen Psaki, and that's from of course, the Atlanta, Georgia White House, because the real White House has not really been occupied since January the 21st. Jen Psaki announced last week that the Biden regime would activate door-to-door strike forces to coerce more people into getting vaccinated. Following that announcement, Lake County, Illinois, posted a document that provides instructions for how such teams should operate. And if you want to see that document, it is available at this website, naturalnews.com. Go to naturalnews.com, all one word, and they'll provide a link for you to see these actual documents. You have to remember that we have been, John Carmen is famous for saying this on the broadcast. Every Friday when he comes on, when we are here, he always said, we're being lied to. We're not being told the truth. We're being lied to. And he's absolutely right. And this Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, or VAERS, I'm going to refer to it as VAERS for the remainder of this report. While the VAERS system at vaers.hhs.gov now reports over 9,000 deaths in the United States following COVID vaccination, the Lake County government document instructs strike force teams to lie to the public. Question: is the COVID-19 vaccine safe? Answer: COVID-19 vaccines are tested in large clinical trials to make sure they meet safety standards. All routine safety standards must be met to ensure that any authorized or approved vaccine is as safe as possible. That's what they say on this Lake County, Illinois document, and this is what it says at vaers.hhs.gov. These teams are instructed to lie to the public and imply that these are approved vaccines which are completely safe. Remember, folks, none of the vaccines are approved, not by the FDA, not by anybody. They're experimental. All of them have been linked to hospitalizations, deaths, and a long list of side effects, including myocarditis, which is heart inflammation, heart attacks, strokes, blood clots, muscle tremors, neurological problems, and one hell of a lot more. Okay? People have suffered from this. There was a case right just the other day of a young man, 29 years of age. I consider that to be young, younger than me. Not a kid, but a young man who, perfect health, athletic, no health problems, nothing. Got the vaccine, and he only has 5% of his kidney function right now. Okay? So, folks, and it's called, we had Ginny Silcox on here last Wednesday. We showed you video of a woman convulsing. There have been convulsions, tremors. There have been people passing out, people dying, horrific side effects from these vaccines. And yet they keep foisting this stuff on us, okay? So they're going to lie to you. They're going to lie right to your face. And you got to be strong. You got to not put up with that. You got to not take it. You got to not believe it, okay? The document instructs strike force team members to illegally trespass onto private property, instructing them to ignore no soliciting signs. Once they illegally obtain access to a building by violating no soliciting signs, they're instructed to impersonate health department officials, which is also illegal under Illinois law. And I'm sure even if you're not in Illinois, this applies to wherever you live. If you have a no trespassing sign on your property, that means just what it says, no trespassing. And it is illegal to violate that. And you can protect your property, right? By any means necessary. Now, here's the explanation given in the document. It says, ignore no soliciting signs. You're not soliciting. You're offering critical information and resources. What are you doing? What you are doing is not illegal. I don't know. Soliciting is anybody that comes on my property to, for example, Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't need God. I don't need anything. I mean, I have God in my heart. My Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is just that. Okay, I'm a committed Christian, but I don't need Jehovah's Witnesses telling me what I have and what I have not. I don't care if somebody is, just coming to people coming to take polls and surveys. That's not soliciting either, but I don't want them on my property either. I don't want them. Okay? I don't want them. Make clear up front that the building has let you in and you're from the health department. Ooh. Well, let's go into this a little bit. The strike force teams are, in fact, soliciting for the commercial for-profit benefit of the vaccine manufacturers who stand to generate tens of billions of dollars in vaccine sales, thanks in part to the coercion techniques described in this document. The fact that big pharma corporate profits are being pushed by proxy does not nullify the commercial motivation of the effort. Thus, door-to-door vaccine coercion campaigns are for-profit campaigns that benefit for-profit corporations which fund election campaigns of government officials that are ordering the actions. That's RICO. That's racketeering, folks. So you have no obligation whatsoever to answer your door, and if you do, you can tell them to off. Okay? Here's another one. Under Illinois statute, chapter 720, criminal offenses, subchapter 3, criminal trespass to real property, the law states a person commits criminal trespass to real property when he or she knowingly and without lawful authority enters or remains within or on a building, enters upon the land of another after receiving prior to the entry notice from the owner or occupant that the entry is forbidden, remains upon the land of another after receiving notice from the owner or occupant to depart, presents false documents or falsely represents his or her identity orally to the owner or occupant of a building or land in order to obtain permission from the owner or occupant to enter or remain in the building or on the land. So, a no soliciting sign is prior notice that entry is verboten. You will not come on my property. And strike force team volunteers being instructed to tell people that they're from the health department is teaching them to illegally misrepresent themselves as health department employees or officers when they are not. They are not, in fact, either of those. So if they come onto your property, knock on your door, ring your doorbell, or anything else, and say that to you, you can say you're liars. You are not from the health department. You are lying. Get the hell off my land. Get the hell off my property. That's it. That's it. This document does not tell the volunteers to say we're volunteers and have no real authority to be here. They're told to imply under color of law that they are health department employees or officials. This is patently illegal. It's the equivalent to a local police department recruiting volunteers and instructing them to say, I'm from the police department, when they aren't law enforcement officials. Now, it gets worse. This is from the document too. After you enter the building, orient yourself so you systematically proceed from floor to floor, covering each wing. Utilize the tally sheet to keep count of those interested in getting the vaccine, those who refuse, and those with further questions. Doesn't it sound like law enforcement or military type techniques? Military or law enforcement building clearing activity? Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me too. To canvass the entire building, record the locations of people who are refusing vaccines. So here's the question, according to Mike Adams over at Natural News: why would the government need a database of the physical locations of people who refuse vaccines? Why? Why? Because they plan to come back, and they need to know where these people are located. They intend on coming back, and they need to know where you live. Right? There are really only two logical reasons why the government would come back. Number one, to force vaccinate these people. Right? Think about it. Or to medically kidnap them and take them away to COVID quarantine centers run by FEMA. So all this stuff we've been telling you about FEMA camps is real, people. It's all real, not made up. Okay? It's real. Now, in addition to all this other stuff, the strike force team members are further instructed to lie to the public about vaccine adverse events, downplaying their significance. Quote, it's important to know that side effects are a sign that your body is working to build up a defense against the virus, and side effects are not nearly as bad as a bad case of COVID. Oh, really? 99.7% of the people that get COVID survive it. That's not the same as the people who survive the COVID side effects or the side effects of the vaccine. Not too good. In other words, if you don't get any side effects from the vaccine, well, then you're liable to be okay. At least for now. We don't know what's going to happen 2-3 years down the road, right? To your DNA and everything else. Your own immune system might begin to attack itself, right? That could happen. And then you die later, nonetheless. Thus, they are instructed to tell the public two horrific lies. Lie number one, the side effects are good things, not bad things. And the more side effects you have, the more the vaccine is working. Number two, that no matter how bad the side effects are, getting COVID is worse. This dishonest, dangerous misinformation, according to Mike Adams, may cause people to avoid seeking emergency medical attention when they suffer serious adverse reactions following vaccination, and this may lead to permanent injury or death. Thus, the Lake County government is directly teaching its strike force team volunteers to distribute misinformation that may get people killed. In direct violation of medical ethics and overwhelming science, this document tells strike force team members to commit fraud and tell people that natural immunity doesn't work. Only vaccines can provide safety, they're told. These claims are fraudulent, deceitful, and dangerous. From the document, question number one, do I need to get vaccinated if I already had COVID-19? The answer to that question really is no. Because even the CDC is now saying if you've had COVID, the chances of you ever getting it again are zip, zilch, nada. But according to this document, the answer is yes. Right now, it's unclear how long immunity for COVID-19 lasts after you've been sick. We do know that immunity from having the virus decreases over time, especially for mild cases. Getting vaccinated is the best way to protect yourself from getting COVID-19 again. Nowhere in this information are team members told to tell the truth, that most of the people now being hospitalized with COVID are those who were previously vaccinated. That's right. Most of the people getting COVID now got the vaccine. Nor are they told to inform the public that vaccines are already failing to work against COVID variants, such as the Delta variant. So what these Lake County documents reveal is a dangerous escalation of government dispatching strike force teams, likely accompanied by armed personnel at some point, to intimidate, harass, and illegally coerce people into doing the government's bidding. These strike force teams are taught to impersonate public health officials, lie their way into residential buildings, trespass onto private property, deceive the public about vaccine safety and side effects, and make a written recording of those who refuse to be vaccinated. This is a coercive, dangerous government initiative being run under color of law authority that essentially seeks to intimidate people into complying with gross violations of their civil rights and their human rights. Okay? But, Mike Adams writes, since the COVID pandemic has established this precedent, governments will readily use this as a template for other campaigns of coercion and intimidation. This will almost certainly include mandatory quarantine efforts where people are literally dragged out of their private residences and swept away to COVID camps against their consent. All it will take is one more COVID variant emergency, and local governments all across the country will leap at the opportunity to assert more power and deprive citizens of their civil rights. Almost any new emergency, including those carried out by the government itself, can now be invoked to authorize emergency door-to-door visits of citizens powered by government databases listing names, addresses, vaccine status, and gun ownership records, for example. A false flag shooting operation can now be easily invoked to demand door-to-door gun confiscation campaigns across the nation, following the same template discussed here. Teams of volunteers can be taught to impersonate law enforcement and demand gun confiscations in the name of public safety, all while violating due process and using tactics of intimidation and coercion ripped right out of Nazi Germany. And there you have it, folks. There you have it. Do not fall for this crap and do not participate in it, folks. You have the right, okay, the right to not involve yourself in this crap. It's going to be challenged legally. You can pretty well be assured of that. Somebody, where it's going to go, I don't know, but it's going to be challenged. And I said I hope to get this weathercaster on who has lost her job because she spoke out against her employer, demanding that the employees all get vaccinated in order to be able to keep their jobs. All right, I'll get into that. All right. Coming up in just a few moments here in the Dark Outpost, we're going to be joined by, hopefully, Airman Jim DeFrancisco, who's going to be talking to us about UFOs, UAPs, the supernatural. He always has some interesting intel to bring to us, so we're going to be talking to him about that at the top of the next hour. And then a little bit later on in the broadcast, of course, Michelle Stefanik, who we were scheduled to have on the show this past Friday, will be joining us, hopefully, to continue her expose of the government's complicity in 9/11, Benghazi, the African embassy bombing, and much, much more. She's a targeted individual, and anyone helping her to report this has become a target as well, and I feel that we might have been part of that targeting because we were unable to bring you Michelle Stefanik this past Friday, and hopefully we will not have a problem bringing her to you today. So, if you are watching this show live right now on Rumble, stick and stay. We're going to be bringing you Airman Jim and then Michelle Stefanik a little bit later on. If you are not watching this show live, if you are watching the archived program on BitChute and Rumble, we're going to be leaving you shortly. And if you want to see the remainder of the program after it is aired live, the only way you're going to be able to do that is to become a member of the Dark Outpost Inner Circle at darkoutpost.tv. Now, why should you become a member of the Dark Outpost Inner Circle? Because when you do, you get access to content that you're not going to get anyplace else. Content like this. Just head on over to darkoutpost.tv. Sign up for a 1-year membership. It's only $29.99 for a 1-year membership, and that gets you access to the entire program, all 4 hours, Monday through Friday, at any time you want to watch or listen to the show. Now, we also have special events, and we're going to be having our first one hopefully this weekend, a special additional broadcast of the Dark Outpost, where we take your telephone calls and so much more. So you get access to that, and you're not going to get it any place else, all right? So head on over to darkoutpost.tv, sign up for that 1-year membership, and then if you will email me a copy of the receipt for that 1-year membership, email it to darkoutpostdocuments@gmail.com. That's darkoutpostdocuments@gmail.com. In return, we're going to send you back something known as the Super Bundle. The Super Bundle is a package of reports covering major conspiracies, most of them having to do with the scourge of pedophilia and child sex trafficking taking place here in the United States and around the world. We have reports on the Clintons, the Podestas, the Bush pedogate empire, and many other politicians. We have reports on the business community, people like Bill Gates, Jeffrey Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell. We have reports on the military-industrial complex, including Michael Aquino and John Brennan. We have reports on the entertainment industry, including the Disney Petalgate empire. We have reports on all of the denominations of Christianity, including the Roman Catholic Church and other religions. We have reports on the European royals and their human hunting parties. We also have reports on how you can protect your children from predators both online and in society. We also have reports on deep underground military bases. We have reports on doppelgangers, lookalikes, and clones. We have reports on the Black Eye Club, and we have that famous, world-famous Guantanamo Bay list. Everyone that's been arrested, taken to Guantanamo Bay, tried, convicted, and sentenced for their crimes to either life in prison or have been executed. We provide you with that updated list and so much more. Again, just go to darkoutpost.tv, sign up for that one-year membership at $29.99. Email me a copy of the receipt for that membership to Dark Outpost Documents. That's Dark Outpost Documents, all one word, at gmail.com. And in return, we'll send you back the Super Bundle. Just put Super Bundle in the subject line of your email. All right? All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will hopefully be joined by Airman Jim DeFrancisco as we talk about UFOs, UAPs, the paranormal, the supernatural, and other conspiracies. Stick around. Dark Outpost continues in a moment.